I'm going to be talking today about retro coding with QB64. If you haven't heard of it, that's probably because nobody knows about it. And I'm going to tell you right off the bat, this might be a bad idea. I want to start with a little history. We're going to start with math. I can understand barely. I am not very good with math. I enjoy it, but not good. So to get the square of a number, we multiply the number by itself. For example, 1 by 1 equals 1, 2 by 2 equals 4, 4 by 4 equals 16. If we want to do that in binary, it might look something like this. Now, if we wanted to do it in assembly, which Kathleen Booth developed, it would look something like this. And this, to me, this makes some sense. You know, I could see we're loading our numbers, we're iterating through them. Then we've got COBOL, which Grace Hopper didn't write it, but it was highly influenced by her. And you know, the actual code is like down here. Everything else is kind of like this divisions of information that you had to put into COBOL. And then you've got Lisp. I just want to notice the first two were written by women, or were influenced at least by women. This one's written by a man. Look at that. Do you see the previous two were plain English, and this one does not look like plain English? No offense to anybody who loves Lisp. I'm not banging on Lisp. I just thought it was pretty funny to go through and see, oh, that's nice and readable assembly. Oh, that's nice and readable COBOL. And then you got John McCarthy here who gave us Lisp. Then we've got Fortran. This is pretty readable. John Backus and also Louis Hape. I just want to, it's getting better, but one of the things that we don't acknowledge as much is the influence that women have had on technology. And so that's one of the reasons why I also wanted to kind of highlight their contributions and why I mentioned her. Then there's BASIC, and BASIC was created to kind of be the language that everybody could use. John Kemeny, Tom Kurtz out of Dartmouth College, and this is kind of what an application might have looked like when you originally wrote in BASIC. This is QB64. As you can see, it's almost exactly the same code. This is C#. This is modern languages now. And I just want you to notice, like, look at all, and this has gotten better. I think they finally made it so you don't have to add all the boilerplate. But there's a lot of boilerplate in here that keeps somebody from just running a square application. You know, it's like 5 lines, and here we've got, I don't know, 10 or 15. Here's Go. A little bit better, but still. And so what happened with BASIC, some of you may remember, my first 2 computers were the Apple II and the Commodore 64. Both of those, when you booted them up, if you didn't boot them into a game or something, they dropped you right at the command line, which was also a BASIC interpreter. So that's kind of how I got my introduction to computing, was working with these old computers, doing BASIC, and that's the way a lot of people got into computers. You know, I'm surprised at the number of people who I talk to who they say, oh yeah, you know, that's the first computer I used, or that's what we were doing in school. And BASIC just became extremely widespread and popular, partially because amateur hobbyists could do it, and it wasn't something that required professional developers. We're seeing a little bit of that loop repeating now with AI and a lot of people who have no background in computer science or developing, creating applications. And then Microsoft. So Microsoft came onto the scene. They were important in the popularization of BASIC. 1975, they released their first version. 1985, they come out with QuickBasic. And 1991, they come out with QBasic. How many of you have coded in QBasic? Couple? Good, good. So QBasic was packaged with Windows, and I love this. I kind of feel like one of the reasons why programming hasn't permeated the masses in the same way that it did earlier is because they no longer package languages right with your OS. And so QBasic was a stripped down version of QuickBasic. And then after QBasic, we had Visual Basic. I liked Visual Basic. Visual Basic was cool. 2001, we got VBNet. I swapped over to VBNet. And then in 2020, Microsoft said, we do not plan to evolve Visual Basic as a language. So Microsoft was kind of became the big place you went to if you wanted to program in BASIC. And honestly, Visual Basic is, VB.NET is so far from kind of traditional BASIC programming that it counts, but not that much. This is the QBasic IDE. So this is what you would have seen when you were starting up a computer in the 1990s, or I think I was still doing it in the early 2000s. And so QBasic, no longer bundled, can't really run programs on Windows. It's not something that you can really utilize without running DOSBox or some sort of emulator. But I miss those days of simple coding. I miss the days when I was able to write something really quickly, and you know, when my short ADHD attention span could be kept in tune because I could see the changes I was making as I made them. QB64, I want to share with you guys a little bit the soap opera edition just because I think it's fun. 2007, this is one of the things you can tell it's kind of early internet stuff because the people don't use their real names. And that's one of the things I like about this community is they still mainly don't use their real names. So somebody named Galleon, or that's their handle, wanted to work on a QuickBasic to C transpiler, and they did that on a forum called Network 54. In 2008, Network 54 is hacked, a whole bunch of material is lost. Galleon launches QB64.net. 2013, he accidentally lets the domain registration expire. It's acquired by an unknown, and lots of material are lost. QB64.org becomes the official site. 2014 to 2016, Galleon kind of gets tired of working with QB64. He phases out, and these three guys, Bill, Luke, and Felipe take their lead. And I know at least Felipe, that's his real name. 2016 to 2022, Felipe becomes the most visible active contributor. I don't think he had a coding background at all, but he was just one of those guys who was like amazing. He writes Inform, which was a WYSIWYG, kind of like Visual Basic had for doing layout, and he wrote an interactive debugger. 2022, this guy RC takes administrative leadership. The community responded very poorly to that. RC burns everything down as a response, literally just shuts it all down. We lose lots of materials again. 2022, Steve McNeil, who's one of the guys, been there since the beginning, launches QB64 Phoenix Edition. That's pretty much, if you go and search to work on QB64, that's the one you want to get, is this Phoenix Edition. And a lot of the original folks are still there. So what makes the QB64 special? First off, is a community that has continued despite numerous setbacks. I mean, we lost all the materials multiple times. And each time these guys have been like, we're gonna find this stuff on our hard drive, we're gonna find whatever we can, and we're gonna rewrite the rest. So this has been just a community that keeps going. It's a very active and helpful community. You got early internet vibes, easy learning curve of traditional BASIC. That's one of the things I love about BASIC. It's easy to understand, it's easy to write. The speed with which you can see working results. It takes so long to create applications now. I do a lot of web dev now. You know the number of tools you have to install and configure just to get your basic app up and running? It's insane. So you can see what you're doing. It's not just a Windows platform, it also runs on macOS and Linux, so you can create binaries that will run across all three platforms. Backwards compatible innovation on QuickBasic. I love it. It's, I'd say 99.9% QuickBasic compatible. And then what they do is they've added additional capabilities to it that bring in a lot of modern language features. And they're just, there's an underscore before them if they're not part of the original QuickBasic language. And you can go on the site and you can see all sorts of the commands. And there's an ample opportunity to contribute. That's where I think some of you might be interested. So this is the QB64 IDE. Does that look familiar? It looks really familiar. I don't know why they wanted to keep the original QB64 IDE. I do not enjoy programming in this environment. But that's the IDE. And then here, this is Inform. This is the WYSIWYG UI that Felipe made. You can see here, he's created a calculator with it. So you get kind of that Visual Basic capability. Now, the next question we should probably address is, should you learn BASIC? Most people would say no. Edgar Dijkstra, I probably mispronounced that because I forgot to look it up before, said, it is practically impossible to teach good programming to students that have had prior exposure to BASIC. As potential programmers, they are mentally mutilated beyond hope of generation. That might have been a different word that I mistyped. But he really didn't think that it was going to be a good thing. And we're not talking about some random voice. You know, he's obviously one of the great thought leaders in computer science. He did become a little less upset with BASIC as he progressed in life, but he never became a big fan. So should you learn BASIC? If you're looking to learn code as a career, probably not the place to start. If you want to dip your toes in, it's enjoyable, it's fun, you can make things quick. If you're an experienced coder, nostalgia and opportunity. When I am really going through a hard time, I will sit down and just code for hours in BASIC. Just because it feels so soothing and like, I'm just back in my childhood. This is a comfortable place to be. I don't have to deal with the real world for a few minutes. So experienced coders, nostalgia, and opportunity. How to learn QB64. I've included here, I have this domain called babyprogrammer.com. If you want to see how ADHD I am, you can see that I've touched like all the different languages and written stupid stuff about them. But you can go there because it's a smaller project. There is not like a great central place to find all the information really quickly. So I have there where to get the QB64, Terry Ritchie's QB64 tutorial. This guy's written a free tutorial. It's almost book length at this point. The forums, which are very active, the Inform WYSIWYG app, the Civil War strategy game, I'll talk a little more about that, and other stuff. Can you make anything good with QB64? Okay, you know, like that IDE looks pretty sucky. Can I make anything with it? Well, this is Space Shooter 2000, which was written in QB64. And this is Qub. Qub is a CLI to web server framework builder. You think of, you know, any of your sort of static site generation tools. I was really impressed by this one particularly. There's Solitaire. You can see that it's used a lot for games. Scrabble, named Scrapple. I forget what this one's called, but does it say? No. Civil War Strategy, this is the one I referenced. If you've been gaming since the 1990s and played with shareware, you may have played it before. Let me show you just for a second. So working with legacy code can be really fun. If you look at this one right here, the wonderful thing is, think about when you see a colon, that means you can just say, hey, move this code onto the next line, right? And it'll keep working the same way. If you have multiple statements on a single line, you separate them with colons. Not in this case, because then there's no end if. This was a shorthand. Basically, you know, this was written in the 1990s. The guy wrote really shorthand in order to be able to fit the entire application into the memory limits that were available. He also started writing it in Basic A, I think, which did not have a lot of the modern functionality that QuickBasic has. So there's a lot of Go subs, a lot of Go tos. This is the original code. I've done a lot of work on it since then to make it more modern. But it's really kind of a fun challenge because I will change some variable that I think is local, that is named something really descriptive like X, and it will end up being a global variable, and it will change everything in the game. So that's fun. This is Slayless, and this was made using GX Game Engine, which is a free QB64 gaming engine for 2D games. One of the things I like about it is it can publish to web, so you can create your app as kind of a desktop app and then publish this app to the web. If you go and look up this is a fun game. You are Santa, and I think what you're doing is hitting kids with presents. I think that's what you do. You run through and just smack them with presents. So it's a fun game. You can play it on the web, don't have to download anything. Whispers in the Moss is a JRPG. It is on Steam. It is positively reviewed. There have been other games on Steam that you probably don't know but are written in QB64. Okay, that's not a blank slide. It just looks like one. Let me see here. I just wanted to show you, it's capable of 3D. This is a quick demo somebody wrote. And it doesn't look as good when it's supersized as it did on my computer. Can I make money with this? I went on the forums, this was months ago, and said to folks, hey, is anybody making money off this? And again, you know, I don't know if that's his real name, Dishkins. He works with several large companies, mainly huge files, comparing, merging, converting, SEPA and Swift payment batches. So some pretty significant work in the financial industry. And then another guy responded, and I actually just want to read this quote because I thought it was pretty neat. He says, in my case, for navigation or tactical software, military programs, the test scenarios, test results, listing of the code do become included in formal reports, contract deliverables, which detail the requirements for operational software. I also provide the exe files with these reports if it helps the users to run their own tests, double check the algorithms. The actual software development team have always transcribed these to either C or C++. So this guy does all the logic work, all the mathematics work, all the business logic in QB64. And then he hands it off to coders who, the software guys have never had trouble understanding the code or even just transcribing it verbatim and then verifying the results with the ones documented in whatever report. I think that one big advantage of using BASIC this way, similar to Pascal in this regard, is that just about any programmer can decipher the basic code easily enough. And I think that's pretty true. So, are you going to make money working with QB64? Almost absolutely not. But it is possible. Now this is opportunities to contribute. IDE. If you don't like that IDE, there is a VSC extension now that offers syntax support and that sort of thing for QB64. And I'd love to see that updated and continue to be expanded upon. This code is technically, so QB64 is technically a transpiler. It takes the QB64 code and it converts it into C/C++, and then it uses GCC to generate the binaries. That's one of the reasons why it can be cross-system compatible. There's a lot of opportunity, I think, to rewrite the transpiler. The code from that has amalgamated over around 20 years. So it is a bit of a mess. Tooling, there is no unit testing currently, and I love unit testing, especially when I'm dealing with spaghetti code, because then I know I didn't break things. So it would be great to have some more of that. Libraries, documentation, marketing, as you can see by the design of my slideshow, which is awesome, my design capabilities. This community is not particularly known for its design aesthetics. And so there's a lot of opportunity for marketing and design to kind of buff up the community a bit. Okay, that's basically everything I've got. Babyprogrammer.com, you can go there, find out more about it. This is a link directly to the QB64 page. If you want to connect with me, LinkedIn, would love to talk with you, that sort of thing. I hope this has been fun. Thanks for letting me.